Hello, my name's Oliver Pickard and welcome to my workshop. In last week's video we got the new boot floor welding in. Now I've got a little bit of something to admit here, and that is that in between filming videos I've been very busy because I've done a bunch of kind of boring, laborious grunt work that needed doing but doesn't make very good TV. So let me show you what I've been up to. Come on. Okay, so under here I removed this big ugly patch like I said I was going to last week. It wouldn't have made very good TV, it was just a lot of me kind of getting frustrated at a bit of armour plating. It was incredibly thick and it is of course welded to a very thin car, so it didn't come off well. It took a while and I had to be very delicate doing it. In the end I had to get a hacksaw blade and kind of put a hacksaw blade inside it and just remove each tack weld, and it took almost all morning to remove just a small piece of metal. But now that it's off, it's been rust treated so it won't rust anymore, and it's been sanded off and wire brushed and all of that, then rust treated, so that's ready to be repaired. It's not actually as bad as I thought, and the inside of the chassis box is actually really good, so that's great news. I've also scraped off the entire underside of the chassis. I've removed all of the underseal except for the bits behind the spring cans, and that's because I'm going to be removing the spring cans later, and I'll do that bit then. There's no point me struggling to remove the underseal around the spring cans when they're getting taken off later. And the reason I've done this is, one, so it can be painted the nice light grey tool paint colour, because I utterly despise the underneaths of cars being black. It's a really good way to hide damage. And on that note, I found damage. This is the thing. I've never done this and not found something. And black just hides things and I really don't like it. So, I found two, where are they? Two small dints, one of which is actually a perforation. It's actually gone through the metal, and it's done recently. It's shiny. The thing is, it's actually shiny around like the perforation, around the edge of the hole. There's no rust, no nothing, which is good news. That can be welded up. But the reason it's happened is because the front of the car's too low. I mentioned this in the Everything Wrong with the Dyane video, but my dad has never been able to adjust the front suspension. One of the rod ends is apparently stuck on. I haven't had a go at it, but that's something that we'll do when it gets back on wheels of some sort. But the front end has always been too low, and he's obviously hit a rock or something going up a driveway or something. And yeah, there's the small perforation, but that can be welded. If it was a rusty hole, I would suggest replacing the chassis, because once rust gets in a chassis, it can't really be sorted. Now, the other thing is that my dad's always mentioned this car is a little bit hesitant in hot weather. By hot weather, I mean like above 30 something degrees, like 100, 95, 100 Fahrenheit. And I think 45, is 45, 113, I don't know, for you imperial people. Anyway, there's some louvers here on the front of the chassis, and those louvers have been smashed flat as well. That can be done quite simply by going over just a load of shrubbery and grass at some point in its life or something, with the front end being too low, and it's pushed all of the louvers in, and so that's all sealed up. Those louvers are at the back of the gearbox, and they're designed to kind of vent heat out of the engine bay, so it makes sense that in hot weather this car may have been a bit warm and a bit hesitant, because if under bonnet temperatures get too high when you have carburetors, it can actually heat up the fuel inside the float bowl of the carburetor, and you get kind of evaporation in the float bowl. And obviously, if your float bowl's full of kind of gaseous fuel, it's that fuel isn't then going into your engine. That's the reason why nobody uses, or shouldn't use, turbos and carburetors. Same thing, carburetors don't like being hot, so that needs sorting out as well. Luckily, none of it's damaged, none of it's rusty. It can just be tapped back into shape, but in order to do it, I'm going to have to take the wings off the car to get in, because the underneath of a Dyane bonnet engine bay is a rather hectic place, and it's full of stuff, unlike my car. So I'll remove the front wings to do that job, because it's quite a mission. But we'll leave that till later, until we're ready. What we're going to be doing today is sorting this side out and the other side. There was a patch on the other side which I haven't rust proofed yet, so I'll show you that now. Now here is the other side, and there was a big square patch on here that was painted grey, and there was a small patch that ran underneath, and another one that went kind of vertically up inside here, inside the door jamb. And I've removed all of those, obviously, but I haven't rust treated it and I haven't inspected it. All I did was cut off the super sharp, super loose stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to cut into the box. We're going to cut along here, we're going to leave a flange, but we're going to cut along, we're going to cut down, and then we're going to cut back, and we're going to remove kind of this section of the box, just the same as the other side. And that will allow us to now rust proof and paint inside the box, and then we can patch it, because this needs doing anyway, and the front edge has come away, so we need to check inside the box, check how it is, check that everything's alright and it's not super rusty. Because one of the problems with boxes like this is one of the issues with monocoque cars you'll find a lot, is they can actually get water trapped in them and rust out from the inside. And so we'll instead of just welding a patch on it and leaving a load of rust in the box to then rust out again, what we're going to do is actually open up the box, and so we can, like I say, rust proof it, paint it, and then repair it properly, and then it'll be fine forever, rather than kind of in 10-15 years having to do the same job again. So tin snips it is. The good thing about this Dyane is, and 2CVs in general, is that the steel is reasonably thin, so it's rather easy to work with. It's not very easy to weld, unfortunately, but you can't have everything, can you? It's quite easy to get frustrated with a job like this, because it's been bodged by somebody else quite badly, and that can be incredibly frustrating at times, because you're there trying to unpick welds and trying to sensitively remove things and trying to sensitively sort things out without causing more damage than, that you've got to then later on fix. And it can be very easy to get frustrated and upset. But the way that I see it like a sharp, stabby puzzle that's there to be unravelled. And when it's something like this, I tend to work a shorter day and get more done. I don't know how to explain it, but like a shorter, more intense day works a lot better for me than a long, protracted day. I think if you work too long and too many hours, you end up making mistakes that you then have to go in later and fix, so it's kind of counterproductive. So, right, let's get stuck in. I don't see enough people on YouTube that do car stuff that talk about kind of the mental side of it, of a project, and the fact that you can... It's really easy to get worn down on a project like this, because as you start doing the work, as you start kind of cleaning it up, like I've done all of the like I've done on the chassis, and you find more damage and more problems, it's really easy to get upset about it. But the fact is that if you hadn't have found it would still be there. You know what I mean? And you can't get upset at the car because it's not its fault. So you've just got to, like I say, you've got to treat it like a big stabby puzzle. And I actually quite enjoy it. It's a bit like archaeology, finding out all the problems and then making it right. And it makes that thing of actually finishing it and sorting it and having it right, it makes that all the sweeter. Come on. There we go. You can see how rusty this is inside. If I'd have just left it and sealed the rust in, it would have just rusted from the inside out again. There we go. So now I've sliced into it, you can see that it's actually much better condition than the other side. But as I peered down into the box, I can actually see a strip of daylight. So I'm going to have to get the torch and investigate that further. I can actually put the GoPro in and investigate what's inside the hole where I can't see, which is handy. So the good news is that even though it was rusty, it was nowhere near as bad as the other side. And now we've sanded it off and we've rust treated it, and it needs 24 hours to go off. So now we'll do the other side. We'll make a repair panel and weld the roll up. So, Dad's been busy. I look away for 5 minutes and he's assembled half the car. So he's made a piece that fits in here to the seat box. It runs down into the sill and attaches here, and it's all plug welded all the way along, as well as welded on the seams. And he's also made this piece here. Now you'll see it has a bead rolled edge, which is made without the use of a bead roller because he's clever. This bead rolled edge goes over the existing seam that's between the floor and the seat box, and that way it can weld to the strongest part, which is the edge of the floor. Now this all needs plug welding in. This bit's already been done, but this needs plug welding in, and then we can actually paint inside the box. This is the thing, any time that you can paint inside any sort of box, any sort of closed part of your car, it's a really good idea to, because stuff tends to rust from the inside out. Any sort of cavity is very susceptible to rust. So this can all be now plug welded in, painted inside, and then we can make a new piece to fit on there, and it'll look good as new, but it will actually be slightly stiffer than new. So that's even awesomer, betterer, more better. Good. Oh no, it fits too well. There we go. If you wonder why I'm wearing a mask, hay fever. Because the last thing you want to do is sneeze while you're using a grinder. Okay, so I've made this new panel for here. It's exactly the same as the other side, but it's slightly longer along here. And the reason for that is that these cars were hand assembled. It's completely normal that one side would be slightly different than the other because they were all put together by people. And it could be just the person that built this side of the car had slightly longer arms than the person that built the other side of the car. And it's the thing that killed them off because they were all hand assembled. These cars weren't made by robots. So there is an element of kind of lack of precision about them. And this isn't unique to Dyane's, this is all older cars. Any old hot rods or anything like that, you know, old muscle cars and stuff like that, they're all different. I once read a group test, I've said this on this channel before I think, but I once read a group test of Mustangs, Fox body Mustangs, so like the 80s to the late 90s Mustangs, and they did a group test and they measured the wheelbase of all the cars in this group test, all these different Mustangs, and I think there was like 1.5 inches wheelbase difference. And I've heard the same thing with Broncos, I've heard the same thing with a bunch of different European cars that are older, and it's just the nature of hand-built cars, and it's kind of the cool thing about them. But it just goes to show you can't. That's why buying panels doesn't always work. Like you can buy a panel from a parts place, and it may need trimming or massaging or something. There's always an element of improvisation when it comes to older cars like this. You know, you can't. It's not like a Ford Focus where you can just buy a panel and bung it in. It's always either slightly too big or slightly too small, or a little bit needs trimming off or something. So making your own panels is no different. But still, it fits absolutely perfect, made to measure. And we've also got the triangle piece that fits inside here. So I'm just waiting for Dad to finish painting now, and then I can make this window piece to fit on that side because he's painted that up, and then he can weld this in while I make that piece, and then I'll make this window piece to fit in this side, and then we'll have 2 welded in, painted chassis boxes. How awesome is that? Yes, I'm using tin snips to cut cardboard because I've got a plaster on my thumb and it won't go through the tiny hole on the scissors. One of the problems of having massive hands. It's already difficult as it is. Huzzah! Right. So, if you like, yeah, it's not square. I didn't think it would be. Okay, so we've got our cardboard template made. All we have to do now is transfer it into steel. Right, literally top tip. Whenever you're doing anything with bends on, always mark the top edge of whatever you're doing, because it's really easy between there and here to bend it the wrong way. You get over here, and for whatever reason you've carried it round that way, and then you pop your bend in it and you bend it the wrong way. Whereas if you mark the top of your template and then you mark the top of your piece of steel, draw an arrow and write top, it's idiot proof. And I need things to be idiot proof. Well, there we go. 2 brand new chassis boxes. It has been an absolute mountain of work for Dad and I, but it's finally over. I'm so happy. There's no more rust. There is no more rot. It is all brand new metal. I was going to say shiny metal, but it's not shiny because we've painted it. We've also painted it inside, remember. So hopefully I'll never need to do this job again. And I'm really proud with how it's come out. The reason why I didn't buy panels is because the places where the panels would have affixed to were also gone because of the way the car had been previously repaired. And I use that word generously. And it wasn't worth buying panels because we would have had to make stuff for those panels to fit to, so you might as well just make the panels. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really proud of how clean it looks. I'm really proud of how beautiful the chassis is starting to look now. It's all been painted this lovely light grey, which will make the car an utter joy to work on. So much nicer than under seal. And it just goes to show how terrible this wing looks. Now, the good news is this wing is going in the bin in next week's video. And I can't wait because I'm sick of looking at it. But we've got a brand new shiny one to weld in. So you've got that to look forward to. If you want to support this channel, the best way to do that is, of course, by subscribing, clicking like, and leaving a comment down below. Tell me what you think of the chassis. Tell me what you think of how the Dyane's coming along. It's going to look so good when it's done. I can't wait to get it out of here, to be honest. But I'm really enjoying working on it. It's very different for me because it's not my car. This is the first car on this channel that I've worked on that isn't my car. And that's a very different experience because it's not all up to me, it's not all my choice, it's not all whatever. But it also means that I'm not having to pay for any of it, so that's nice. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with how it's coming on. So tell me what you think down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye bye.